Outside, they don't really follow smoking. I got into a fight with three guys. What's up, guys? John back with another video, and today we're gonna do something a little bit different. I'm gonna talk about my experiences here in South Korea. So I lived here for over 10 years, and these are 10 things that I miss being an American and living in the US, that sometimes you get a little homesick. So this is my list. Of course, this is only my opinion, and if you guys want to talk a little bit more, or if you've ever been to South Korea, comment below. I want to hear from you guys. Let's get started. So the first thing is, and this is kind of like a given, but diversity. Okay, this is like probably the number one thing that I miss about the U.S. is our multicultural melting pot, full of different ethnicities and people from all over the world, coming together and then sharing their cultures. And this is something that is very difficult in Korea, since the majority of the population is Korean. I would say like 98%, I think it is. Nowadays, there's more foreigners like myself that settle down and kind of live in South Korea, and then we have like families, so it's a little bit more common, and then Korean people are a little bit more used to it. So you depending on your skin color, unfortunately, and your race and ethnicity, it depends on the reactions that you get. So being an Asian American, I don't really get too many strange looks or anything like that. As well as I speak English perfectly, so there's not really much that they can pick on. But if you are a darker color or something like that, and then you marry a Korean, or your family might get something talked about. But most of the time, Korean people are pretty nice. But you do hear some comments here and there. So that's one thing that I kind of miss, is the accepting of different cultures, or we're so used to in the U.S. That everyone accept each other's cultures, but here is not the case. And it's not just only like your skin color or anything. I'm talking about like food as well. Is another thing. Of course, Korea's becoming a lot more diverse in terms of restaurants and choices, but that's only in the big cities. I live in the countryside, and literally there's nothing but Korean food. So there are a few like pizza places, but if you guys want me to kind of go over food, or foods that I like or don't like, comment below and let me know if you guys want me to do a longer video. But food is another thing, man. And if you've been to Korea, everything is sweet. And I don't really like sweet things, so it's kind of good for, if preventing diabetes. But in terms of food diversity, you're pretty limited unless you're in a bigger city. But even in the bigger cities, options are pretty limited compared to the US. Couple of Mexican places that are mediocre. They're not the best. I did find a pretty good Brazilian steakhouse in Daegu. Not bad. Of course, it's not like the US, but not bad. So that's number one, diversity. Number two is driving culture. Now, I've driven in Korea for almost 3 years now, and I had to take the Korean driving test, and you guys can check out that video on my channel as well. It's all the way down. It's like 3 years ago, so it's been a while. But it was hard. It's harder than the U.S., but I failed it. There's 3 different sections and everything, and I go into detail about that. There's the written, and then there's the course, and then there's the actual road test. So that's why it's a lot harder. The course is the hardest, I feel, if you are an inexperienced driver. But I want to talk about the driving culture. I feel like Korean people don't really follow the rules. They just kind of do whatever they feel like it, especially when in terms of parking and left turns. I've seen literally a car go from the sidewalk, and while we're at, where everyone's waiting at the stoplight, they will literally, if they're the first car on the corner or near the curb, they will literally cut through 2 lanes to get to the left lane to turn left, and they're already like on the crosswalk, like blocking people crossing. So obviously there's no enforcement. Parking is the same thing. People park. I have examples you guys can see here of people parking wherever they feel like, and right in front of a cop. The cop doesn't do anything. There's no enforcement in terms of that kind of stuff. Only speeding cameras, speeding, especially in school zones, is a big one, because there's been a lot of cases where the cars just hit kids or something, and then the moms and the neighborhood gets really, they're adamant about it, and they go after the police and the lawmakers about it. But that is very rare. And Korean people drive crazy, man. Their culture is not looking over their shoulder while they change lanes. They rely on the mirrors, so there's a lot of blind spots that they're missing. So there's a lot of near misses and accidents that happen. So that's another thing. And they're pretty aggressive drivers. They are, that baili culture, that hurry up culture, is in every aspect of their lives, including operating a vehicle, and sometimes it's very unsafe. So if you guys want me to talk about my driving experiences as well, I got tons of stories below. But that's number 2. Number 3 are mannerisms, like little mannerisms that we take for granted as Americans. For example, everyone goes over this, is holding the door for the person behind you. Like, let's say you're going into a department store, and you're opening the door and someone's behind you. If I hold the door and there's like 10 people behind me, they will all go before you can go. So they don't understand that you're just holding for the person behind you, and they just expect you to hold the door for everyone. And it's the same way as like the driving part is, there's no stop signs. So if one person lets the other person go, the 10 cars behind them will also go, and you have no chance to go. So that's why Korean people never like yielding, because there's no stop signs. They don't have that culture. So that's a little bit annoying. And then also another thing is being friendly to strangers. And now Korean people are usually pretty friendly if you speak Korean, or if you approach them in Korean. It is a lot easier, for sure, from my experience. So if you guys come here, please learn a little bit Korean, and don't expect everyone to learn English. Although my Korean skills are minimal, and I'm probably like medium level Korean. Like, I understand, but speaking is a little bit difficult. But I can usually say what I want to say. But yeah, I use a lot of English sometimes when I can't say it, right? So it happens. And but the point is just, as long as you put some effort into learning Korean, you will be fine and respected by the people that you're talking to. But for the most part, Korean people are a little bit shy when you speak English, because they have to use their English, and they're very self-conscious. Not from you. It's from other Korean people judging them. It's a very judgmental country. So they don't want to look bad in front of other Korean people, not in front of you. So just kind of understand that difference. Number 4 is hygiene. That's one thing that I get annoyed with, especially I live with my in-laws. And it's kind of annoying when, someone sneezes, they don't cover their mouths, or they cover their hands to sneeze into their hands. I don't know where they learned this from, but they probably think that's good manners. to, sneeze into their hand. Everyone knows in US, like, we are taught to sneeze into your elbow, right? You cover like this. So you can spot right away who is a foreigner and who is Korean just from that particular move. If they're sneezing into their hand or coughing into their hand, they're not from the U.S., right? So that, even if they're Asian, Asian looking, that's how you can tell. Another thing is spitting on the sidewalk. So a lot of people, and I've seen it in Hongdae or in Itaewon or those kind of crowded areas. But it doesn't have to be those international areas. It could be just regular Korean street. A lot of people spit on the sidewalk while they're smoking, or they just hawk, like hawk, and then they spit on the sidewalk. Smoking outside, they don't really follow. Smoking. I got into a fight with three guys. A verbal fight because I didn't want to start anything. Like I got so irritated one time. I was parking my bike and then to go to the gym near my neighborhood, and there's always people smoking right by the bike rack where there's a huge banner in the back that says no smoking. And I approached them and said it in Korean. It's like, there's no smoking sign. And like, don't you guys know? And they just kind of like shrugged me off or whatever, and I just exploded. And then the cops came, and we got in shouting. Well, I got in shouting match with them, and I don't know. They probably thought I was a like crazy American guy, but I just got so irritated, and the cops came, and I was explaining like I can't take it anymore. Like every day is like that, and they have like a security guard that comes by to tell people, right? But no one cares. No one listens. So finally, I was like, go check the CCTV. Like seriously, don't take my word for it. Like just check the CCTV, because like Korea's like land of CCTV. So the cops are like, okay. The next day, the whole area cleared out. There was no one smoking. And then there was a security guard with like a vest, like walking, patrolling there. So I was like, I guess that's a win for me, right? I mean, I don't have to deal with like smoking people outside. So, and that was another big one. And a last one is like pushing and shoving onto public transportation. So a lot of, and I understand the culture of like baili, like you have to get somewhere super fast, right? I always joke around, Koreans like to hurry up and wait. Like literally just hurry up and wait. Because a lot of times you're rushing to go somewhere. Same thing with a car or walking or whatever, but you end up going nowhere and nothing happens because you have to wait. People are speeding, past me, and then guess what? They're stuck at the traffic light. You can't really speed in Korea because there's so many traffic lights, even in the countryside. So there's no point in going super fast when you're gonna stop anyways. So it just doesn't makes no sense. People like to use their forearm to kind of shove you in the back while you're getting on the bus. Another time I got super irritated. I just turned around and yelled at the guy behind me to stop it, because I just super annoying, and I don't like people like pushing me. So that was another thing that I miss. US definitely, you can't really touch another person, especially like that. So you're gonna get something. It's gonna happen. You guys know. Number 5 is good bread. Guys, Korea sucks at making bread. I don't know if it's the water or whatever, but they're terrible at making bread. And their most popular bakery, Paris Baguette, or Paba in Korean, is I think it's probably one of the worst bakeries I've ever been to. And I am surprised that they are expanding into the US and in Europe. I heard there's one in Paris, so if you guys ever been to one, let me know how's that experience. I'm pretty sure like how Burger King and McDonald's is here, where the quality is better. overseas and it's kind of like suited to the local taste. That's probably how it is, because I watched many videos and American people seem to like it. But when American people come here, or even Europeans come here, because I had a lot of classmates from Europe while I was studying my MBA, they complained about the food for the bread especially was terrible, and you're paying very overpriced. I think like a baguette, which is I think like a little bit longer than a foot, is like $5. And you guys know you can go to Safeway or Walmart and get like a 2-footer, huge, thick baguette for like $1. So don't get bread in Korea if you're from the U.S. It sucks unless it's like a specialty shop or something like that. You might be able to find it. There is one hot place called London Bagel. It's okay in Seoul. There's a huge line every single time. It's the closest thing to a New York bagel, but it's not even close. It's just okay. So there's a lot of stuff like that in Korea and in Seoul specifically, that it's just good enough to get your craving, but it's never there. It never satisfies it. Okay. What is the sixth one is cheap fruits and meat. So when I was living in San Diego, we would go to Zion. Like I would go to Zion Market and or Food for Less, and you could get like super cheap fruits, and meat was pretty cheap back then. This was 2012. I don't know how it is now. I know since I'm from Hawaii, everything's expensive. So, but general, like there's more selection too, and food is another thing that I can expand on in a different video. You can get guavas, you can get avocados specifically. It's so expensive in Korea. Watermelon is kind of cheap where I am, because I live near the farms. So that's a good thing. The good thing about the fruits here in Korea are they're fresh and they're not like GMO. They're like non-GMO. I don't know how they regulate the GMOs here, but it's definitely not like the US. You'd never tasted strawberries this sweet if you're from the US. Like they're very small, but they're packed with flavor. Shine Musket is like a bigger grape, is also very good in Korea, but they're expensive. They're like $50 for like a box this big. This big. $50. So it's very expensive. Meat, especially quality meat. You can get cheap pork or something. I don't really eat pork too much, but Korean people eat a lot of pork because it's cheap. They don't really eat chicken breast that much either. Like I love chicken breast. I work out. It's healthy. And that's expensive too. So number 7, we have the rental system for apartments or 1 rooms or 2 rooms. They're called like just tiny little 1 rooms. They do, and this is another thing that I can't. It's really hard to explain. You're gonna have to pretty much read it online. They have two like chonse, so they pretty much take a huge chunk of money. So it's a certain percentage of the property value, and you have to be able to put it up front. That's the deposit. So if a house is 100K, then you're paying at least, I think, like 70,000. So this is an example, okay? If a house or apartment is 100K, you have to come up with 70,000. It doesn't matter how, but you have to come up with that cash. So a lot of people will borrow from the bank, right? You put up a certain amount, like let's say 20 grand, the bank fronts you 50 grand. So you have that 70 grand. And then that's the deposit. And then the amount that deposit is, depending on how much it is, obviously the more you put, then the less you pay monthly. Sometimes you don't have to pay. the rent, but it all depends. And then you still have to pay for, electricity, and then HOA, if you're living in a bigger apartment. So it's kind of weird. So I miss the rent, like the monthly rent. That's another rental system thing that I miss, because you can calculate your expenses a lot easier that way. So that is number 7. Number 8, the weather, especially the summertime right now, is sweltering hot, is humid as hell. It's about 90 every day with humidity about 70 to 80%. And then once in a while it rains, and that's when it's terrible. When it rains, it's like I live in the desert of Korea, in Daegu. It's called the desert of Korea because it's so hot, and it's like very sunny, which is great. The sun is great. The air is good because I don't live in a city, but in terms of the humidity, and let's say you're drying clothes or something, it doesn't dry. It takes like days for it to dry. So I miss living in California where the weather is nice, and every day is kind of like, cool and moderate, like 70 to 80 degrees. Like that's what I miss. Is the monsoon season's terrible. The winter time's okay actually over here. Like I don't think it's that cold. Like I lived in Iowa, that's cold. Korea's not that cold. So it's kind of like comparable to New York. Everyone complains it's cold. I don't think it's cold. If you lived in the Midwest, you know how cold it is, what cold is. All right. Number 9, the pace of life, especially before I came to Korea, it was like super easygoing, and you're less stressed. Even though you might be stressed about money and all that stuff, you're not stressed about like what other people are saying about you, or these things at work or something like that. Like for most people, and I feel like in Korea that adds, that kind of like stacks up on top of each other, that anxiety, and you can't get away from it. I've developed anxiety while living in Korea, and it's something that, like, I wish upon no one. I had a panic attack like years ago, and then I had to take medication for it, and it's very common in Korea. That happens to Korean people, that happens to foreigners. It's just a lot of pressure, from just everything, like from school, from work, from relatives, friends, like everything's just piled on, and like the expectations and everything like that. And it's hard to explain unless you're here. You can feel it. Like everyone who comes here and studies here and lives here can feel that kind of weight. And whenever I get out of here, like if I go to Japan or back to Hawaii or California, it just feels like I feel so much lighter, and there's so much weight lifted off. It's crazy feeling. Like it's just hard to explain. But if you ever lived in Korea or kind of experience that, comment below. And that leads to number 10. It's just like less anxiety. That's a main thing. Like mental health is a huge deal in South Korea, and I guess in the world now. But I feel like ever since I had my anxiety attack, my panic attack in 2016, I think it was, and I had to take medication. Like you have to go see a psychiatrist. Like every month, I had to go see him and then talk about whatever. He's like, he taught me how to do like breathing techniques and all that kind of stuff. That's super important, especially when you have that anxiety to the point where you're at depression mode. There's a lot of people depressed in Korea, and I lived in the Goshiwon, which is like it's closet pretty much. You're living in a 5 foot by 5 foot cube, and it's like my brother he studied architecture, and he came to my room one time for a visit, and he's like, this is illegal because the little porthole or the little window that I had was not facing outside. it was facing the hallway of the Goshiwan, and then on the across the hallway was another room. So in terms of safety, fire escape, it is how it is. They let it go. So that's pretty unsafe. But that was the cheapest option while I was studying. So I was living there for 3 years. So not only like the space is so confined that and then on top of that pressure that I was talking about, it builds up, and I think that's what that anxiety kind of came from. So yeah, that's my 10 things. Let me know if you want to expand on certain topics, and if you want to hear my experiences. I'll probably talk about some things that I love about Korea next. So let me know what kind of topics you want me to cover next time. I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers!